Good morning. Welcome to All Faiths Unitarian Congregation. My name is Bob Moore, and I'll be leading our service this morning. Here you will find a diverse and inclusive spiritual community where we welcome people with many beliefs. You can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and your expansive heart. At All Faiths, we have more than one way of honoring the sacred and understanding the world. I did it in reverse. No matter who you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey, and no matter whom you love, you are truly welcomed here. Is anyone visiting for the first or second time today? All right, we've got some hands. Welcome. Welcome. Glad to have you, and we hope you find a comfortable home here. If you'd like to learn more about All Faiths, we have our member coordinator, Fran, who's in the back, and you can meet her over by this door between the two rooms here. Or if you're online and you want to find out more information, you can go to allfaithsuu.org. There are announcements on the back of your order of service, but I just want to add one and emphasize a couple of the others. This Tuesday, the Climate Action Team will be hosting a screening of the film Kiss the Ground. That's at 1:30 on Tuesday afternoon here at All Faiths. It's a focus on regenerative agriculture, and there'll be discussion afterwards on the topic. On Saturday, there's going to be a fundraiser here for All Faiths. There were tickets being sold outside on the way in. Probably you can get some on after the service as well. The Americana Community Music Association regularly rents our facilities for their concerts. And on this Saturday, there'll be an open mic night. That'll be a special fundraiser for All Faiths. So we want to have a lot of people show up. And it's the summer of love. So bring your beads and your tie-dyes and and your singing voice. Next Sunday, following the service, there will be a short congregational meeting to allow folks to vote on their preference with regard to the proposed revision of the UUA bylaws, Article 2, looking at changing the principles and sources. If you can't be here and you want an absentee ballot, you can get one of those, I guess probably from Regina. An email, okay. So send Regina an email?
No, everybody's going to receive an email that they can check their preference and send it back.
Okay, in case you didn't hear that, everyone will receive an email and you can check your preference and reply. And then on Saturday, June 3rd at 10 a.m., there will be a newcomers orientation. We'd love to have all new folks who are interested. They'll be providing information about All Faiths and Unitarian Universalist Association. And there's a bulletin board back here where you can sign up. So now, please rise in body or spirit as we sing hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. As Frank Geltner comes forward to light the chalice, please join together in reciting the words in your order of service. As we light the chalice, may we commit ourselves to protecting all the beautiful species that share this planet with us.
Our children will remain with us.
Well, it's so good to see all of you on this beautiful Florida morning. Every morning I get up and I say, I'm living in paradise and I didn't have to die to get there. So it's a joy to be here. And now I invite you to come forward and share with us your joys, sorrows, or gratitude. Michael?
Well, there's no joy in Mudville today, but well, maybe a little. I want to shout out to Sharon Gray, who has done above and beyond the call of duty for Barbara. Barbara is dying slowly and painfully at hospice. Now, the person I sent to the hospital had fallen and hurt her leg and couldn't stand on it. She was otherwise perfectly healthy. Her lungs, everything was healthy. So imagine my confusion when 3 days later, she's going to hospice and not expected to live through the night. And then, 4 days after that, after good care at hospice, she's back to the person I sent there, fully in charge of her capabilities, just can't walk on the leg. Now, I'm not going to keep going through all the trauma. She's had it rough, but I'm going to light the candle in hopes that none of you ever, I mean, she was killed by the care of the Lee health system. And I'm hoping that none of you ever have to go through that.
Is anyone else?
I get really nervous, I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Rosalie Kuhn, and I'm really happy, I know I'm shaking, to be here, because I went out to dinner last night with the Epicurean group and got food stuck in my throat, and I had to be, the waiter fortunately got it out, so I was okay. Michael was disappointed he didn't get to do it, but yeah. And my other joy is, I've been meaning to get up here and say this for a long time. My son, Mark Swanson, is an artist. He has a show right now at Mass MoCA in Massachusetts, the largest contemporary museum in the country. And it's 2 huge rooms, and I'm just so proud of him. He just, he never gave up on his art, and yeah, it's just wonderful. And I have the book if anybody would like to look at it afterwards, okay? Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Today, we're addressing the topic of the endangered species, and we really need to do everything that we can to protect all endangered species, because it protects not only them, but our future generations. And I'm so delighted and so proud to have Emmy, our teenager, as our speaker today. Emmy, we're proud of you, we love you, and I'm delighted you'll be giving the sermon today. So this is for Emmy and all of the young generations today. May we all do what we can to protect them.
As we, is this on? Test, yeah. As we prepare for that sermon on protecting our species on Earth, let's take a moment of silence and bring into our attention all the living things we share this earth with. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's turn our hearts and minds to today's service and contemplate our blessings. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn 123, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hands, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our opening words this morning. Healthy ecosystems depend on plant and animal species as their foundations. When a species becomes endangered, it's a sign that the ecosystem is slowly falling apart. Each species that is lost triggers the loss of other species within its ecosystem. Humans depend on healthy ecosystems to live and to thrive.
If you see your brother stranded by the road with a heavy load from the seeds he sowed, and if you see your sister falling by the way, just stop and say, you're going the wrong way. You gotta try a little kindness, show a little kindness, just shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded street. Don't walk around the down and out. Lend a helping hand instead of doubt. And the kindness that you show every day will help someone along their way. You've got to try a little kindness, just show a little kindness, shine your light for everyone to see. And if you try a little kindness, then you'll overlook the blindness of narrow-minded people on the narrow-minded streets. You've got to try a little kindness, show a little kindness, just shine your light for everyone
The reading today is by Brian Simpson, who's the editor-in-chief of Global Health Now, which is a publication of the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Nearly a quarter of all deaths worldwide are linked to environmental issues. That's 12.6 million deaths every year, according to the WHO, the World Health Organization. Human beings are the most important endangered species, said Margaret Chan, WHO's outgoing Director General. The harsh reality is that the world is losing its capacity to sustain human life. And the health sector cannot provide all the solutions, Chan told an audience of more than 200 during a technical briefing on health and the environment at the World Health Assembly. The health sector can account the deaths and raise the alarm, but the health sector alone cannot tackle the root causes of these risks because they largely lie in other sectors, non-health sectors. In order to improve or mitigate the risk, we need to work with other sectors and partners to get their policy right, said Chan. The necessity for a multi-sectoral response that involves industry, agriculture, NGOs, local communities, and others is reflected in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, 7 of which are connected to the environment, Chan said. From climate change and air pollution to land degradation and fresh water scarcity, the challenges are considerable. All of these have significant impacts on health, she said. Climate change in particular is already having a major effect on health in vulnerable island countries, said N.S. Khan, the chief negotiator for the COP23 climate talks, and Fiji's permanent representative to the UN in Geneva. We know in Fiji that the relationship between climate change and health, Khan said, noting that extremes of rain and drought have been tied to increases, for example, in cases of infant diarrhea. Another great challenge, according to Khan, bridging the gaps between WHO's efforts in environment and health and the UN framework Convention on Climate Change process. She pointed to the Paris Climate Change Agreement's acknowledgement of health as a human right as evidence of the need to link health and climate change efforts. We need to work harder on this connection, she said. Basically, what it boils down to is, do we have the political will to act? She said, urging individuals to at least take small steps that can trigger wider change. Please rise and body your spirit as we sing together hymn 137, We Utter Our Cry.
We utter our cry that peace may prevail, that earth will survive and faith must not fall. We pray for our life, for the world in our care. People diminished by thought and despair. We cry from our fright of daily scene for strength to say no to all that is mean. Signs bearing chaos, extinction of life, all energy wasted on weapons of death. We lift up our hearts for children unborn. Give wisdom, O God, we may hand on, replenish extended good earth, preserving the future and wonder of earth.
Making sure you guys are able to hear me all right? All good? Cool. But man is a part of nature, and his war against nature is inevitably a war against himself. Rachel Carson, a marine biologist, writer, and a conservationist. She's most known for her book, Silent Spring, a book about the dangers to the environment that were threatened by pesticides and the inevitable doom of humanity if we continued treating the environment as we were. As people, we were responsible for the actions harming the planet. We were the ones pulling the strings. This book started an environmental revolution, opening the eyes of Americans all around. Rachel Carson was accused of being an extremist, being hysterical, by the papers, chemical companies who were money hungry, and those who refused to open their eyes and would rather live in their own bubble of blissful ignorance. Even though this book was published in 1962, many environmental activists are making the same points that Rachel did, and yet they're still ignored by corporations who only care about the amount of cash in their pockets rather than the harm being done to the animals, even humans, lest we forget we are animals. Anyone who makes their opinion known about the environmental harm, the extinction of species, and the ever-going supply issue is seen as a voice in the wilderness. As long as the human race has existed on this planet, we have tried to be the predators and we make everything our prey. We look to conquer instead of looking to meet our needs and the needs of others. Our potential extinction could be a self-fulfilled prophecy. Due to our self-righteous attitudes, we end up lost in our own worlds, thinking we are what keeps the world going round, not realizing that the other wildlife we coexist with are just as important, if not more. Without humans, without us, the world would continue to spin. We are pollution to the planet, creating things that only benefit us. Even though it is almost within our nature to do so, we enable this with giving our future leaders a lack of science education. Political leaders, such as the infamous Donald Trump, once said, "The concept of global warming was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive." Yeah. Another one from Trump is, "It's really cold outside. They're calling it a major freeze, weeks ahead of normal. Man, we could use a big fat dose of global warming." In some cases, we can view the stupidity simply by seeing headlines, such as one about Ron DeSantis that states, "Ronald DeSantis once called measures to curb climate crisis left-wing stuff, and now his state is floating." This is from a couple months ago, by the way, so. These are just a few examples of the harmful things that people we have put in power are saying. Instead of acknowledging climate change as a fact, as what it is, we pretend as if it's some sort of conspiracy theory, much like these politicians I mentioned. Along with this lack of education among leaders, we also have a lack of the understanding of the impact of overconsumption and what Neil deGrasse Tyson calls scientific literacy. We lack the knowledge to understand the basic facts of climate change, the impact of our overconsumption, and what other critters around us do for us. We ignore how important even the smallest of creatures are, such as the bees. Without them, human nutrition would suffer and there would be an extreme lack of fresh produce. In just Europe alone, 78% of wildflower species and 84% of crop species depend on pollinators in some way. Albert Einstein said, "If the bees disappeared off the face of the earth, man would only have 4 years left to live." Birds are another animal that is important and is also yet another animal that is being threatened with the idea of extinction. Birds are often more a part of the ecosystem than we may think about. Macaws eat fruits and expel seeds through the rainforest as they fly. If you've ever seen how messy a pet parrot is, this is actually part of nature's design. Our parrot Megan must want to make a whole rainforest in our house, apparently. Without birds, there'd be an overwhelming lack of pest control, and our plants and animals would be destroyed. Vulnerable communities and farmers would be forced to go back to using harsh pesticides, digging ourselves into a deeper hole of destruction. Of course, these aren't the only critical animal species that are being threatened with extinction. Along with the many animals that are on the verge of extinction are our plants. Plants are a huge factor to our environment. They're like natural oxygen tanks. The International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List, which is a list containing, endangered species and threatened species, has over 62,200 plants on that list. Take that in. That's 15% of the world's known plants. Unlike other species, plants do not have the ability to simply get up and move, to relocate and to quickly adapt to a new environment. They're unable to outrun the destruction caused by the appetite of a human predator for more and more and more. Without plants, the world as we know it would cease to exist. There would not be a remnant left, as a domino effect would just come into place. All food chains begin with sunlight and plants. We would have no food, and animals that rely on plants would die. The oxygen we breathe would slowly become more and more scarce. The medicines we use to treat pain, such as aspirin or even forms of chemotherapy, come from plants. We couldn't possibly survive without them. Although, from this point forward, it's questionable what we're able to do when it comes to the conservation of our wildlife, our plants, and even with the conservation of ourselves. There isn't a simple answer to a question about such a complex issue. But there are different ways we're able to look at it, to frame it differently in our heads. We are all part of a much bigger picture, like small specks of sand among the beach. One person changing their ways won't do much, but spreading awareness, sparking conversations, and educating those around us will do wonders. Simply by acknowledging the fact that climate change exists and is real and not a hoax by the Chinese, and that there's a desperation for change, can help to rewire the conversation. One of the many, many ways we can help to combat endangered species, climate change, and to heal our environment is something that starts in your own backyards. Let's throw away the idea of well-maintained lawns. We can have native plants, grasses instead, create a food source and home for different critters. We could be more considerate when it comes to tearing down forests where wildlife live to replace it, just replacing it with restaurants where plastic cups are thrown on the ground and plastic bags blow in the wind. More money could be funded towards nature centers and nature trails, like local ones that focus on wildlife conservation. Think of Calusa Nature Center, Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge, or the 6 Mile Slough. Volunteering at these conservations or even at local zoos are helpful activities. We could educate ourselves on different species going extinct, understand why they're endangered, and what efforts can happen to stop this. Things like consuming less, like using reusable shopping bags, having reusable bottles, or using less plastic and paper plates is something so simple but so helpful. Even being more conscious about the items we buy, such as jewelry pieces or table pieces that may be made out of the ivory of an elephant tusk or turtle shells, can help to combat the issues with endangered species. Another thing many people may not know about is you can adopt an endangered animal. Of course, this does not mean literally housing an endangered animal or a giant elephant in your house and sleeping with it in your bed. As great as that sounds, and Mom, don't get any ideas. Can't do that. This would simply mean you help to fund the care of an endangered animal with your support and your financial contribution. Even if the precautions above are to some extent effective, they don't necessarily impact the bigger picture as much as we may want them to. Every day, many different species continue to be threatened by extinction. The simple act of changing small habits of our own will not change this. I am aware that we're not able to change the way that others think, others do things, or force others to do things they may not want to do. The journey is difficult and long, but a road to a multitude of recovered species is one well worth the wait and the effort. With more teamwork, outreach, and community effort, we can work as a team to move forward in this journey. Instead of thinking small, we need to think big, like really big. Get into contact with local representatives and discuss your options and issues you can see to be useful. Joining nonprofits and organizations who have the main goal of protecting our endangered species and their homes is something else useful. Organizations specific to Florida are ones like the Fish and Wildlife Foundation of Florida, who have the main purpose of conserving our wildlife, or Save Natural Florida, a nonprofit created to help support clean waterways, the issue of invasive species, and habitat restoration. Simply by supporting these organizations, you are coming together with others to fight the bigger problem. One thing we also need to realize is that nations will need to work together and borders need to not matter during the climate crisis. It does no good for us to recognize the need of conservation for our planet and several countries with large populations not to. It sucks to hear, but the cold hard truth is that this is not a problem that'll simply be fixed with a huge budget. No matter how many reusable bottles we use, how many times we turn the water off while brushing our teeth, or how many times we as individuals make the conscious decision to turn our lawns into homes for the bugs, the rabbits, the birds. At the end of the day, money-hungry corporations control the narrative. They want you to forget that perhaps the most endangered animal is the one whose numbers are doing fine at the moment. Yet this animal destroys its own habitat, pollutes its own water, smogs up the air it breathes. The only way for this animal to survive is to realize that the disappearance of one thread of the interdependent web, wherein we all reside, can easily collapse the whole system. Yes, my fellow humans, we need them all. The ants and the bees, the rhino and the dolphin and the turtle, and even creepy crawly snakes and lizards. For our survival, we must be willing to see this interdependence, not as a weakness or something to be overcome, but as the holy oneness it's meant to be. There's a short poem I want to read to you all by Matthew Alsman from 2017 titled, "Letter to Someone Living 50 Years From Now." It paints the picture of what the world could look like one day if we don't continue to fight this difficult battle. Rather than just describing to you what the poem wants to say, I'm just going to read it to you instead. Most likely, you think we hated the elephant, the golden toad, the thylacine, and all variations of whale harpooned or hacked into extinction. It must seem like we sought to leave you nothing, but benzene, mercury, the stomachs of seagulls ripped with jet fuel and plastic. You probably doubt that we were capable of joy, but I assure you we were. We still had the night sky back then, and like our ancestors, we admired scorpion outlines and upside-down ladles. Absolutely, there were some forests left, and absolutely, we still had some lakes. I'm saying it wasn't all lead paint and sulfur dioxide. There were bees back then, and they pollinated a euphoria of flowers. So we might contemplate the great mysteries and finally ask, hey guys, what's transcendence? And then all the bees were dead. This is a letter to our future generations, but this loss is not written in stone. We can still turn it around. I leave you with one final quote for you today, which you'll also see on your order of service. From former United States Attorney Loretta Lynch. We all have a responsibility to protect endangered species, both for their sake and for the sake of our own future generations. And I promise you guys I have a joke for you too, but I have to grab my phone. Since I wanted to be so depressing this time, might as well, tell you guys too. Okay. This one is not against our choir, so guys, don't get mad at me. Why can't you sing very well in choirs?
Why?
Thank you, Jensen. Because they're always reading ahead to see if they agree with the next verse. Yeah, I've seen that conversation happen before in choir. Nothing against you, Carlos. Have you heard the latest UU miracle?
No.
Someone saw the face of Ralph Waldo Emerson on a tortilla. Thanks, guys. I'll be here for about another half hour or so.
Makes me think about a conversation we had last year about legacy. And we hear sort of the youth in our congregation speaking with such a voice. It makes me feel, as someone of an older generation, that the burden's on me. I'm here living my life to try to leave the next generation in as good a shape as possible, and I hope we can all be living our lives that way. It's time for the offertory, and I have a joke too. It's on the theory that humor makes us more generous. And hearing a talk like that, it's hard not to reflect on just the miracle of life and the species that we share this planet with. And there's a jellyfish that has survived for 650 million years, despite not having brains. And this gives me hope for humanity. We appreciate your generous donations, which support our dedicated staff, beautiful facilities, inspiring services, interesting activities, and social outreach at All Faiths. If you're with us on our live stream, you can mail checks or visit our website at allfaithsuu.org, and our morning offering will now be taken.
As every day goes by, how can we close our eyes until we open up our hearts? We can learn to share and show how much we care right from the moment that we start. We can change the distance, only we can make the difference. Don't you know that tears are not enough? Seems like overnight we see the world in a different light. Somehow our innocence is lost. How can we look away? 'Cause every single day we've got to help at any cost. We can build a difference, only we can make the difference. Don't you know that tears are not enough? If we can pull together, we can change the world forever. Heaven knows that tears are not enough. It's up to me and you to make our dreams come true. It's time to take our message everywhere. Love can reunite us all, from sea to shining sea. Let's Let's show them we the people care. We can build a distance, only we can make the difference. Don't you know that tears are not enough? If we can pull together, we can change the world together. Heaven knows that tears are not enough.
Spirit of life, grant us the wisdom to care for the earth. Help us to act now for the good of future generations and all your creatures. Help us to become instruments of a new creation founded on the covenant of universal love.
So we're singing a song called Ask Me to Sing, because the choir is getting ready to have their summer vacation, and remember that there is a new choir starting up in the last part of August. I will be looking for a choir, more choir voices. The auditions are just singing a little song like Happy Birthday or something. As you can see, they've been dedicated, they've been wonderful, coming to rehearsal week after week, and every time we try to present something new, we were gonna do 2 songs today, but seeing that we're gonna do something for Father's Day, we put one of the songs for Father's Day, so this is one of the songs, Ask Me to Sing.
Ask me to sing, and I will give you a part of my heart.
Ask me to sing, and I know nothing can keep us apart.
And when I sing, each note is right and true. If you ask me to sing, I will sing for you. Ask me to sing, and I will give you a piece of my soul. Ask me to sing, and I feel happy and hopeful and whole. And when I sing,
was beautifully done. We thank Emmy Spiller for the important and heartfelt message and for having the courage to have your voice heard. We thank Carlos and the choir for amazing music. We thank Sharon Gray on camera and Ed Elrod on sound. Joe Gayton, our sexton. Joyce Schaefer for our flowers. Nicole Racine and Frank Geltner for taking care of us with hospitality, and Chris and Marcia, our greeters today. It is good to be connected in whatever way we can. So, as Frank comes forward to extinguish our flame, please recite with me our closing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please join us for coffee and conversation in the social hall.
Before you go, I'm going to ask all of you for a commitment to do everything that we can so that we protect the future generations. She's 16 years old, and when I talk about Emmy, I say she's going on 80. Because I have a grandson in Pakistan and Emmy here who make me believe in reincarnation. She has the wisdom way beyond her age. But we have to commit ourselves. I want you to stand up and say, yes, I commit myself to protecting the future generations of America by doing everything we possibly can every day of our lives to make their future possible. We must protect the future generations, and the future is now. Yes.